today is that it's got nowhere to hide. It's got nowhere to hide for the simple reason that we can go out and we can test things. We have tested a lot of things. A lot of knowledge has been established, and that just flies right in the face of religions, especially religions like Christianity. All right, it just flies right in the face there. Okay, science and religion, in my opinion, anyway, is incommensurate. Okay, there's no way to reconcile them. Others may have different takes on this, depending on how they view what a religion is and whatnot, or how they ask the question. But my take on it is that it's never going to be reconciled. Those who hold fast to a religion are basically either ignorant or they suffer cognitive dissonance. Okay, now let me talk a little bit about the question of evidence. Okay, going back to that, and then I'm going to return back to what I was talking to before. What a lot of Christians are calling evidence isn't really. It's some subjective experience that they have had in their lives, and they're attributing that subjective experience to a God somewhere. Okay? Which, if that's what you want to do and that's what you want to believe, that's your business, you know. But if you're going to try to sell that to the rest of us, you're going to need something more substantial than some personal experience, because that's not evidence. I'm sorry. Evidence has to be demonstrated. All right? Don't call it evidence. Just call it what it is. It's your personal experience, which is perfectly valid for you. It's perfectly fine. It is not evidence. It doesn't even come close to being evidence. Okay? And that, as they say, is that. Now, what else can we say here? I'm going to get back to, the evolution of my atheism, because as I stated before, as a young kid, teenager actually, I became an atheist after I saw the contradictions in all these different Christian denominations that are out there, and the fact that they couldn't answer, fairly simple questions with any level of cogency. So I dismissed the whole thing. And then around the time I was 18, I came across this one fervent religious group. They were actually a cult. And on the surface, they seemed to be able to answer the science questions that I had. Okay? And maybe that was because the group was run by a former physicist. So he actually had his act together, at least a little bit there, enough to trip me up and to convince me to join their group and be born again, born anew, whatever. It was all a wash. As I got deeper and deeper into it, I started seeing problems even with their approach, even though, they were very Bible-centric. We all read the Bible every day from cover to cover, and everything we had to go back to the Bible for and try to find a verse to match this or that and try to get into deep Bible understanding, the whole 9 yards. So I learned a hell of a lot about the Bible during that time, okay? And it got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. There was just so many problems. And I left that. But unfortunately, it had screwed up with my head, because I was involved with that group for like 4 years. And it messed up my head big time. So it took me another 4 years to get my head straight. And the way I got my head straight is that I learned more science and more mathematics, okay? Particularly the book that was written by Benoit Mandelbrot, The Fractal Geometry of Nature. Why do I mention this book? Because after I left that religious cult, I had a problem initially with completely rejecting the notion of God, because there was this nagging question in my mind of how can we have complexity if there was no creator. Okay, I don't know why this was such a nagging question at the time, but it was. So, once I came across fractal geometry, and then we can get all into chaos theory and complex dynamical systems, etc., etc., this showed me that you can have complexity arising out of simplicity. And not only that, but, it was demonstratable mathematically, and it was demonstratable in nature. You could see it everywhere in nature. Okay, this was wonderful. And as I got deeper into complex dynamical systems and fractals and chaos and that entire panoply of new understanding that came about thanks to Mandelbrot, I was able to reassert my atheism. And I remember the very day that I came to a realization that there was no God. Okay? It was the most profound time ever where I finally felt relieved. Okay? That there wasn't this big sky megalomaniac up there with a big stick that was looking to whack me for eternity, to fry me in hell, infinite torture,